welcome to episode 492 of Cinematary. I'm your host, Zach Dennis, and I am here with
Grace Winburn
and Andrew Swafford.
And in today's episode, we're going to be kicking off our latest series, the one that will lead us into the 500th episode, and that is Cinematary Re-Do. And that is the series is going to be us going back through our catalog, mainly like within the first 100, 150 episodes or so, and redoing a few movies that, one, it could be, hey, we just kind of want to revisit this. Two, it could be like we had a very different take 10 years ago to what we do now, and just kind of relitigate that a little bit. And three, I don't know, I'm just like, some of them, I'm just like, I just want to watch this and talk about it because we have like 8 or 9 more episodes left and we can do what we want.
Yeah, we're taking a little trip down memory lane, you know.
And I wasn't there, so this is fun.
That's true.
We're improving the memory now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Grace picked a couple that she would have wanted to be on the episode for if she had been on the podcast at the time.
If I had even been born then. I'm so young.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't born in
2014.
I wasn't around. I didn't exist.
Grace is 8 years old.
And she's doing great on this podcast.
Very precocious.
But that's what we're kind of looking at right now. So the first episode that we're going to be doing is 1952's Singin' in the Rain.
We had to start there.
It's a somewhat infamous. I actually listened back. It's episode 71 of the podcast. We talk about Singin' in the Rain as part of a movie musical series that we were doing. Andrew comes in pretty hot. I don't like, it's just like, I'm not about movie musicals. And great. Singin' in the Rain is kind of like the number one. Like, this is the one that might convert you, and it doesn't.
Yeah, I was real snotty about Singin' in the Rain in 2015.
Yeah, I was checking the letterboxed list from it, and it was from 9 years ago. So I'm assuming 9 years ago. That's what we're talking about. Yep. But so we're gonna talk about Singin' in the Rain. We got some special appearances from episode 71 to play during that, but we'll wait. Let's go ahead and jump into movies that we saw this week. I'm gonna kick us off. I saw Timmy C and Bobby D's movie, A Complete Unknown. For those uninitiated or unfamiliar, Complete Unknown, it's directed by James Mangold of Walk the Line, Ford versus Ferrari, Wolverine fame. Also, the last...
Wait, Wolverine? I thought he made Logan.
He made the Wolverine and Logan.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he made the most recent and entirely forgettable Indiana Jones movie. So...
Wow, that is forgettable. I forgot that happened.
I forgot it happened until I'm looking at his like filmography right now, and I'm like, he did do the latest Indiana Jones movie.
Interesting.
But Timothy Chalamet is playing Bob Dylan. This is him getting to New York. It's the early 1960s. New York is the backdrop of music and cultural upheaval. He lands from Minnesota into the West Village, and I like this log line, which is with his guitar and revolutionary talent, destined to change the course of American music.
Not bad.
Yeah, right. But this takes place Dylan in New York, kind of becoming popular in the folk scene, really breaking out, and then it ends with the Newport Folk Festival, the infamous one. But this is Timothy Chalamet. You have Edward Norton, Elle Fanning, Monica Barbaro, which, Jesus Christ, like.
Is that the woman you were talking about who plays Joan Baez?
Oh my God, she's so pretty. That's my very intelligent movie.
Yeah. 10 years of film podcasting has brought us here.
Yeah, 10 years of film podcasting has led to me to be like, girl, pretty. I like looking. But like it really puts a whole thing on the Bob Dylan and Joan Baez romance, because in this movie you're just like, Bob, what the hell are you doing? It's not even night and day between like this whole love triangle. Like she's the one. But I have to say, Timothée Chalamet, I don't know if anybody's heard about this, but he's pretty good at acting. Pretty good. He's very good in this one. I think he does a great Dylan impression that's less like him doing an impression and more just kind of embodying this like mood of Dylan.
What do you feel? How do you feel about his impression of Dylan's singing voice? Because I have not seen this movie, but I remember watching the trailer and thinking that he just sounds like a little bit too good of a singer to be singing as Dylan.
He's pretty good. Yeah. The thing I will say to that note is he doesn't, for somebody who smokes 95% of this movie, he doesn't sound like he smokes. It sounds like he's got a pure set of lungs, no wear and tear on it. Honestly, that's kind of like a lot of the singing in this movie, especially from like his scene. It's like, like these people probably have a little crackle in their voice, with just the amount of like shit that's going on and that they're doing over the course of this 2-hour movie. And he doesn't sound like that. You're just like, no, he would sound like he smokes 5 packs a day, because that's seemingly what he does in this movie. He's constantly smoking. And Timothée Chalamet sounds like he's never smoked a day in his life. So that's the only thing I got on that. It's not, I don't know. I think the mileage will vary on this. If you're a Dylan fan, I think it's kind of fun. Timothée Chalamet's good. You're kind of like, I saw a Letterboxd review and it's like 95% of this movie is Dylan songs. I like Dylan songs, so naturally I like this movie. And that's kind of my train of thought, is it profound? No. Does it like add anything to the mystique and lore? No. Does it like further no, it doesn't do anything. It's just kind of like, let's hang out with this period of history, hear Timothée Chalamet sing and do and kind of embody Bob Dylan for 2 hours and some odd minutes, and you get to groove to some good music over the course of it. So I don't know, like I get it's getting awards buzz, I guess. You don't have anything better to award, so I guess you can go with this, but it's not, I won't say it's profound. It's just kind of, if you want to hang out with Dylan songs for 2 hours. That's about I got. That's what I got. So.
And that's enough.
Yeah, if that's you, there you go. If that's you, there you go. So, Complete Unknown. It's still in theaters now. I think it's been doing pretty well. I don't know, maybe the kids are gonna get into like some 60s Dylan stuff, because they like Timothée Chalamet and are showing up for this thing. I don't know. It's a little bit more a movie. It's a little bit more movie for the boomers to kind of like replay that. Yeah, it's a little bit more of that though. I would love to know like what a Gen Z person is making of like what's going on at the Newport Folk Festival at the end of the movie. And like, not because they like wouldn't have any concept of the history possibly, but just the kind of like, it's not like you're going to have that indebted like feeling toward, if you're just showing up for Timothy, you're just going to be like, all right, what's going on here? But yeah, it's fine. Like I said, it mileage may vary depending on how much or how little you like Dylan.
I want to watch it. I like Dylan a lot, but I'm not really in a hurry to see it. I feel like this is one that I'm going to catch when it's on streaming or something.
That's kind of what I've told people. I saw it in a theater because I was bored, and I went to the IPH, and I was like, I'm just going to go watch something. This seems fine. Mm-hmm. But it's very much like it'll pop up on Netflix or Max or something like that in a couple of months. Just watch it there. Like you don't need the whole theatrical experience. Mm-hmm.
What if you don't know anything about Dylan, like myself? I know nothing about him. Would I get anything out of this? Would I learn something?
Well, this is like the Dylan myth, right? Because like abandoning folk music for rock and roll.
I think it's a good. I would read up a little bit on this period, like even just do like just do like a Wikipedia kind of thing. Like it doesn't have to be long. Just kind of
you can kind of know what goes on, but it's a pretty entry level. Yeah,
no one's gonna be standing outside the theater like name 5 Dylan songs to get.
They might, but stay away from those people. This is a pretty entry level point. Like that's why having Timothée Chalamet and you're getting all these kind of younger people attracted to the movie just because of him. Like it's not like it's getting like deep in the weeds on stuff. It's very like surface level for everything.
Well, I also have to ask because Zach, I know that you, like me, are a big fan of the movie Walk Hard.
You like
how does this movie work in a post Walk Hard world? Because of course, Walk the Line, it kind of gets a pass. Walk Hard didn't exist then, right?
It's kind of making fun of that, specifically. It passes because, like I said, like it's fun to hang out with. It's fun to have the Dylan songs. Timothée Chalamet is really good. It's not like he's doing like a bad job. So like it's a legit good performance out of him. And even like Edward Norton, Elle Fanning, Monica Barbaro, they're all great. They're all fantastic. They're really good. And so like the acting is there. It's just it's just kind of everything else is pretty subpar. But I did think, like, immediately leaving, I was immediately kind of going, this is a real dark time, Dewey. and it made me want to watch Walk Hard, which if you haven't watched Walk Hard, like, you should recommend.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's fantastic. I don't think it escapes that. I don't think it escapes the Walk Hard label, but it's still pretty funny. It's a good time. I don't know. Go see it. Grace, I'm passing it over to you.
Yes. I saw Nosferatu. For real this time, because I had put it on my best of 2020 list.
One of the best movies of the year.
It was one of the best movies of the year that I hadn't seen.
That is so chaotic.
But I had a feeling, I could feel some sort of a premonition, something from the other side, some celestial body anywhere reaching out to me to tell me, hey, you are going to love this movie.
It came to you in a dream.
It came to me in a dream, and I did love it. I loved everything about it. I thought that this was a fantastic adaptation. I love all things vampires. I love Nosferatu, the Murnau. I love the Herzog. That one is also my favorite. Andrew, I think you said that is your favorite too. It is certainly like a superior adaptation, very dreamy. To me, that sort of feels, it's so mythic. It feels like looking at some still image, like a stained glass window, very medieval and meandering and plotting as it sort of things come into focus. And I think that this, as an adaptation, does so many things differently and does them so well. I had said in my letterbox, the things that really worked for me was Ellen and Orlok's previous connection, like that having already been established, that he has visited her previously in her life, perhaps that was, something locked away in her memory, some sort of trauma that she had never really worked through, because, what is there to work through? It's some sort of awful
she says it's her shame. Her
shame. This this awful moment in her life that she's had to live with forever, and then loving Thomas takes it away. Makes her whole again. And then I also really loved leaning into the occultism and mysticism with it all, when it is paired against the more modern technological advances, especially in modern medicine, with regards to psychiatric care and medicinal practices of bloodletting and corseting and all sorts like that. I think that those two things really stuck out to me as like, this is something else. This is a different take on it that gives a little more to an adaptation of an adaptation of a,
of a plagiarized story,
of a plagiarized work, and I think that everyone delivers such phenomenal performances. I had heard from some folks that they didn't like Aaron Taylor Johnson's performance, that they found him too rigid and annoying.
I thought he was good.
I thought he was good.
I don't usually like him, to be honest.
Yeah.
I thought he was good in this.
Same.
I think he's a very handsome man on screen, and I think that he kind of coasts on that. But I think that even still, with the performance that he gave, he stuck to it 100%. And that sort of the rigidity of his character, that affectation in his accent, to me speaks to status, societal status and cultural elitism. He is the standard with which Thomas measures his and Ellen's life against. And he is like the epitome of all the hard work that Thomas hopes to achieve through this new job, taking care of this mysterious Count Orlok. It was beautiful. I felt like I could see everything I was supposed to see. So well lit. The black and white with the like blue tones were beautiful. I could have lived inside those forever. It still felt equally as dreamy, where I feel like with Herzog and his interpretation, the camera's focused on, whatever this field of vision is. And it's like you start to make out shapes in the dark, and then they suddenly appear. And those like lingering takes are very dreamy in that. And this thing sort of seemed to like fall into the frame, and there's a lot of
so much camera movement.
There's so much camera. It's just somersaulting around. And I was trying to think really hard. I couldn't remember. There's this like wood block printer that does, oh my gosh, Escher, MC Escher. That's what the camera movement reminded me of. And
which is weird because Eggers usually doesn't move the camera a ton, but this is like him doing kind of like a big splashy blockbuster in a way.
And it worked so well. It was absolutely dizzying. Where do these dreams and visions of Ellen's begin and end? It was gross. It definitely scared me. It was deeply sexy, and it was wonderful. Like, it was perfect. What more could you ask for? I walked out of the theater and I was like, wow, that was amazing. And then I heard some people like laughing with each other. They're like, that sucked. That was awful. Like, what the hell was that? And it's like, you just don't get it. And that's okay. I'm so sorry.
I thought this was the best movie of the year.
Actually,
Cinematary.
Whatever. What did I put it at? Probably like.
You put it at 6.
I put it at 6. Yeah.
Did she wait? What was below it, or was that the lowest thing on her list?
It was not the lowest one. It was there in the meat of it.
You put it above movies you had seen.
I did, yeah. And I knew, because I knew.
Oh man,
I was that confident, and I was right. And I probably should have put it at like 4 or 5. But I hadn't seen it yet, so I was like 6.
It's a modest shot.
Yeah, you can't rank it that high.
I can't put it that high. I can't put it as number 1. That is just, that's unreasonable. That's tacky. But
going back to your point about people walking out and scoffing at it, Robert Eggers definitely no stranger to that phenomenon. I mean, The Witch was one of the first A24 movies that they played really wide. And, they advertised it like it was a very traditional, jump scare heavy horror movie. And I think that got like a cinema score of a D or an F or something because so many people hated it. but he has stuck around and continued doing his weird little thing. And what's been surprising to me is that, this time around, he's gotten so much negative buzz from like the Letterboxd art house crowd. It seems like people have really taken against it and taken against him more generally as like a director without a vision, without anything to say. And the people who do acknowledge that he has like a particular stamp are kind of dismissing the value of that stamp. That in particular being like his interest in history first and foremost, and interest in like different historical paradigms that characters live in, and how they kind of see the world fundamentally differently than the way that we see it today. His movies don't really offer the same sort of like moral commentary that we're used to seeing in movies, because they're more just trying to capture like the ideologies of the past and of different cultures. But a lot of people are like, yeah, that's dumb. Like, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to just make like a history nerd podcast of a movie? But I don't know. I think that's a really, really cool idea, and a unique way of going about making all sorts of different movies from different genres and different points in time. And I've enjoyed all of them in different ways.
This one was, I was really surprised also. This one did really, really well, like box office wise, which is always good because, like, especially with like him, you want his movies to do well so that he'll make more of his history nerd podcast movies, I guess.
Yeah.
And this one, I think a lot. This one seemed to really kind of capture. A lot of people were seeing this like around Christmas. When I saw it the day after Christmas, there was like the theater was pretty filled up.
Mine was too.
Yeah, and I talked to the folks over at the IPH, and they were still playing it because they're like, yeah, it's been like selling very well. Like it's been doing great. Yeah, I don't really have anything. I saw it a while back. I echo everything y'all said. I would love to rewatch it. I don't know, Andrew, I know you saw it a second time. If that if that added more to it, I feel like it would, and it's probably, I would say right now my third favorite Eggers, but depending on the second viewing, it might pass The Lighthouse.
Oh,
that's like my second favorite.
Yeah. Hard to rank them because they are all so different. But,
yeah, and I still haven't rewatched Northman, so I don't know. I might come out of that.
I liked the Northman a lot more on a rewatch. I feel like Eggers movies are always better on a rewatch, especially if you're watching them on a Blu-ray with subtitles, because these movies are always kind of leaning into you not necessarily being able to make out.
This one was very clear.
This one was better.
It
was a lot better than the Northman. The Northman, I didn't understand anything. It was all vibes. But no, this one, I think we talked about it a little bit, but really like what a tour de force performance by Lily Rose Depp. Who,
oh my God.
I honestly was
undeniable.
I honestly going in, I didn't really have, because she hadn't done a lot. She was in that show with like The Weeknd on HBO. Yeah. And it just kind of was like, what's this? She sold it. She was incredible. Just really amazing.
I mean, she sold this like dark, brooding beauty and this fragile, delicate person. And I mean, she's so beautiful and so scary. I didn't know that she was able to do that with her face and body and neck.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was frightening. It was very unsettling to watch. I wonder, like, I kind of feel like, I think what kind of was difficult for a lot of people to watch and parse out, I think that we're such like a, it was very genuine and like a very honest portrayal, and it dealt with some sort of murky ethics on sexuality and desire. And I don't think that in this day and age, people are really able to sort of parse out any sort of like gray area when it comes to female desire and sexuality. And I think that there seems to be this sort of need to take the moral high ground.
Absolutely.
And so when she is displaying less than savory or less than chaste feelings, and I think that people just really sort of struggled with it and really sort of bristled at that. And then also to deliver such a physical performance with that lust driving it, I think that people got a little, they're kind of like the Dad and the Witch. Maybe they would like that a little better.
Who he was also great. I was glad to see him.
Oh yeah, always like when Ralph
that with him.
Up. Yeah,
he is a chameleon.
Oh, I could recognize that voice anywhere.
Oh yeah,
you know what? Like, that's true. It was like this is.
I was like, we get the duo of him and Willem Dafoe. Like hell yeah,
going on a little like detective journey together.
They were
oh my god!
And this was also very funny. Like
it is
such
super
a
funny
sense of humor. Like when he like pats Willem Dafoe on the back and the dust like billows up. That was very silly.
There's
like
Willem Dafoe's line about
home that you like blow the dust off of. It's just very cute. I loved it.
I also like Willem Dafoe's giant pipe.
Yeah,
and his line about how he's seen things that would make Isaac Newton crawl back in his mother's womb.
Honestly, like Lily Rose Depp is the star, but right below is Willem Dafoe just being Willem Dafoe in this movie. He's fantastic. Well, Nosferatu, it's still playing in theaters, so if you haven't seen it, definitely go see it. It's one of the top 10 movies of the year according to Grace pre and post movie watching. So
it's jumped up a spot, probably from 6 to 5.
Dang.
Yeah, it's in real time, y'all. Andrew, I'm gonna toss it to you.
Sure. I'll try to be quick. I saw a niche music documentary about the band the Mars Volta. Very formative, influential band to me personally. If you have never heard of the Mars Volta, feel free to skip ahead to part 2 of this episode. Unfortunately, Zach and Grace are just going to have to sit here and listen to me talk about it, though. If you are unfamiliar and still sticking around, the Mars Volta is a progressive rock band with a lot of jazz fusion and Latin influence in their music. They're a band from El Paso, Texas. They were sort of formed out of the ashes of another band, the post-hardcore band At the Drive-In. And that band ended up breaking up because they kind of got to a certain degree of success that kind of brought to the fore a lot of tensions that existed within the band and made it very clear that one half of the band kind of wanted to go in one musical direction that was very weird and innovative and pioneering, and one side kind of wanted to make more, straight ahead, heavy rock music. But this is a documentary about the relationship between that half of At the Drive-In, Omar Rodriguez Lopez and Cedric Bixler Zavala, I think is how you say that guy's name, who have been friends for a very long time and continue to stay friends even post Mars Volta breaking up and getting back together. And the thing that's kind of interesting about this documentary to me is just the sheer breadth of footage that it is working with, because Omar Rodriguez Lopez is, a musician, but also a little bit of an amateur filmmaker in his own right. And he has been just filming his own life sort of casually for, I think, 40 years is what the documentary says at the beginning. So it has all this footage of his childhood, in his adolescence and his early days with both of these bands to pull from, and it edits it together in some really trippy and enjoyable ways. Folks who've listened to Mars Volta know that it is it's a very psychedelic, very strange band. And I think the visual style of this documentary really reflects that very well. All the images are just kind of superimposed over each other and just constantly fading from one to the next. There's no talking head documentaries. Oh, I probably should have said the name of the movie. Thank you for putting it on screen, Zach. The name of the movie is Omar and Cedric: If This Ever Gets Weird. but as I was saying, there's no talking head documentary footage here. It is all footage taken by Omar for the most part, and just voiceover narration of Omar and Cedric talking about, the various experiences that they've had. And if you're a fan of this band, this is a story kind of told from the inside that has never really been told before. A lot of the aspects that I was not quite expecting, maybe should have been, is how much it delves into kind of the racial and sexual prejudice that both of these guys had experienced. They are both Latino. They're also both queer on some level, I think. This movie also kind of explores their kind of queer platonic relationship in a way that it has a little bit of tension to it. You're not totally sure, like, were they a couple at one point? There's a scene where Omar like points the camera at him and Cedric and says, like, so do you think we should tell them? Do you think we should tell them that we're a real couple? And they both just like awkwardly stare at the camera for a while, and then Omar like kisses Cedric on the cheek, and then it cuts. But they both talk quite a bit about various forms of discrimination they ran into in the music scene growing up, and that sort of informed the decision to make the Mars Volta like a very Latin forward band, musically speaking. There's also some incredible concert footage in this. There is 2 songs that you get to see them perform almost in full right in the middle of the documentary. They play Roulette Dares and The Widow, which was both from the Francis the Mute tour. Amazing songs, like definitely the peak of the band's musical prowess, and very, very well photographed. I don't know where that footage comes from, but I hope there's more of it. I would love to see like a full version of that concert as like a film. Also, as like a super obscure side note, some people may know that the album Francis the Mute is like a lot of their albums are like concept albums that tell these very cryptic stories, deep lore about me. I spent a lot of my adolescence on a Mars Volta message board, and had like this ongoing project with like an internet friend I had made on that message board. We were like trying to decode the story hidden within the lyrics of this album. And there's a moment in the documentary where Omar just kind of like offhandedly explains the story of the album, which is just, my jaw was on the floor when that happened. Also, I was completely wrong about what that story was. So I was happy to be proven wrong. And I'm trying to think what else worth mentioning about this. I don't know. If you liked Mars Volta, you should go listen. You should go watch this documentary. It's really illuminating, really, really well put together. I couldn't have asked for a better documentary about this band that I love so much. So if you're not into them, it's not going to be for you. But, Omar and Cedric, if this ever gets weird. Good movie, IMO, but limited audience, perhaps.
I'm imagining the clip of the audience losing their minds in one of the Avengers movies when all the characters start popping up for the big fight, but it's him talking about that specific album story for you, and it's just you, and you're just like,
absolutely, yes.
All right. Well, we're gonna take a quick break, and then we will be back, and then we will be singing in the rain after this.
I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds so dark up above.
And we're back for 2 of episode 492 of Cinematary. In this part, we will be talking about 1952's "Singin' in the Rain." And shoot, I forgot to do a fact sheet.
It's "Singin' in the Rain."
Yeah, well, hey, young Zach, can you help me out real quick?
All right, well, some quick facts about Singing in the Rain before we get into the discussion. It was directed by Stanley Doran and Gene Kelly from a script by Betty Comden and Adolph Green. The film stars Gene Kelly, Debbie Reynolds, Donald O'Connor, Gene Hagen, Millard Mitchell, and Sid Charisse. The plot follows a silent film star played by Kelly who works to transition his latest film into sound in the late 1920s, early 1930s. The idea was hatched by MGM producer Arthur Freed with the help of musician Nakio Herb Brown. Freed wrote the lyrics for all of the songs while Brown composed them. The screenwriters contributed one song, Moses Supposes. In the early drafts of the script, Reynolds was set to sing the big song "Singin' in the Rain" along with O'Connor and Kelly. When they emerged from a restaurant after the flopped preview. But in the film, Kelly actually ended up singing it by himself after dropping Reynolds off from his home. There was also a scene shot between Kelly and Charisse during the Broadway Melody segment that was taken out by the Legion of Decency, which is the worst superhero group of all time, and production curve because they found it to be brief and suggestive. For that was good. You'll notice that there's a kind of a cut when they get close at one point in the dance. And there's kind of a cut that they took this part out because the Legion of Decency just found it just so unheard of.
Could you explain what that was? I didn't notice any awkward cut.
In the sequence of Broadway Melody, when he goes into the nightclub and there's the woman that he's dancing with next, who is the wife or whatever of the gangsters, they have that whole number where they're dancing together, and I guess there is a cut at one point that they took out, where Kelly and her they described it as a brief suggestive move. So
noticing whenever she kind of sticks her leg out and he props it up in the air, that I was like, this is a lot of leg for a exodency.
Yeah. In the famous dance sequence in which Gene Kelly sings the title song while spinning an umbrella, splashing through the puddles and getting soaked to the skin, Kelly was sick with an 103-degree fever. The rain in the scene was actually caused his wool suit to shrink during the filming, and there's a common myth that Kelly managed to perform the entire song in one take, thanks to cameras placed at predetermined locations. However, this was not the case, as the filming of the sequence took place over 2 to 3 days. Another myth is that the rain was mixed with milk in order for the drops to better show up on camera. The desired visual effect was produced, albeit with difficulty, through backlighting. Debbie Reynolds was not a dancer at the time when she made the movie. Her background was actually as a gymnast. Gene Kelly apparently insulted her for her lack of dance experience, and it upset her. In a subsequent encounter when Fred Astaire was in the studio, shout out to our guy from last week, he found Reynolds crying under a piano. Hearing what had happened, Astaire volunteered to help her with her dancing, and Kelly later admitted that he had not been kind to Reynolds and was surprised that she was still willing to talk to him afterwards. After shooting the Good Morning routine, which had taken from 8 a.m. until 11 p.m. to shoot, Reynolds' feet were bleeding. Years later, she was quoted as saying that singing in the rain and childbirth were the 2 hardest things I ever had to do in my life. Variety said that Singin' in the Rain is a fancy package of musical entertainment with wide appeal and bright grossing prospects. Concocted by Arthur Freed with showmanship know-how, it glitters with color, talent, and tunes, and an infectious air that will click with ticket buyers in all types of situations. Pauline Kael said that it is just about the best Hollywood musical of all time. There is more energy, more originality, more excitement, more art, and American kitsch, like Singin' in the Rain, than there is in the presumed, quote, high culture of Hiroshima Mon Amour, which I thought was just the most Pauline Kael thing you could ever say.
Man,
that was such a bad pronunciation. Also,
you've gotten better at pronouncing words over the years.
I also talk so fast. I'm like
so fast, and also your voice has gotten deeper too.
Oh, thank you.
Got some more texture to it, like you've been smoking
grizzled with age.
Yeah, I've been smoking more packs of cigarettes. So
like what Timothée Chalamet needs to do.
Yeah. But let's jump into it. Grace, I'm gonna start with you, since this is a movie that you were telling me before that you like. her quote was before we recorded that when she closes her eyes, she can watch the movie in her brain.
I can see it in its entirety. This is my favorite movie of all time. This is number one for me on any list. Anytime anybody asks me, I am never not thinking of it. I can hear the music so clearly. I can repeat the lines. This is so essential to me. I saw this movie from a very young age, probably like 5 or 6. And from there, I think I gained consciousness to it. From there, it has inspired every aspect of my life. I wanted to be an actress, just like Kathy. I named all of my stuffed animals Kathy after her. I was in love with Gene Kelly. I did not know it at the time. I remember so vividly, I was probably in like the 1st or 2nd grade, and I was watching it again, and I was like, you know what? I love this movie so much. I'm going to write a review. And I wrote nice opening, pretty cloths, because I loved the costumes.
Yeah.
Wait, do you still have this review?
It's somewhere on like a little spiral notebook. I had this little notebook that was fluffy and it had a cow on the front, and it was in that I wrote it. I will never forget. That was like my reporter's like steno pad, because of my mother and like all of her steno pads. So I'm like little reporter writing down my reviews.
Well, the movie is just great cloth. So
yeah, great.
Right.
It does have great cloths. And then I
News just in. Singing in the Rain. Great opening.
Great opening. Fabulous cloths. And I like put my little notebook away and just watched the movie. I have the family. I have DVD, Blu-ray, VHS, and the soundtrack. So those are my bona fides for this film. And as I've grown up and as I've learned more about film, it all starts to click because I watched this with a child's like wide-eyed sincerity, and I took everything at face value. I took this as I was like Lena. I didn't understand the history that it was putting forth, the moment in time that it was capturing. Of course we talk, don't everybody? I never got that. I didn't know that it was a comedy as a child. I thought that this was the most serious piece of art. I thought that all movies were exactly like this. And again, as I have grown, I have learned that it does so well of capturing and articulating that transition from silent to sound. And now with the experience that I have with silent cinema and film history, this is just such a standout. This is a phenomenal film on every level. Everybody is acting so well, singing so well, fabulous cloths. It does a really good job. One thing that I just noticed on this rewatch today, there's a time where when they're wiring Lena for sound and they have to go into the sound booth, that transition from silent to sound, it resulted in some pretty stagnant camera work. And, how do they, they're trying to figure out how to record audio and, them sort of stumbling through it as they figure it out. It's little things like that that are so accurate and so careful, so like well put down that this movie is like I'm pointing to my TV. It's on my TV. I was just watching it before we started. This is, you could use this as like text for a class to teach that transition, and it would work so exceptionally well. I think that if anyone has any interest in like, I'd like to learn more about film, start here. This is fun. Musical. It's a fun musical. It's a beautiful romance with stars like we've never seen before or since. We don't have triple threats like this anymore. Where are they? I'm trying to think of some. Mike Feist, he came to mind with West Side Story. I guess Tom Holland as well. If he could just get out of Marvel jail, has he really? I don't know.
Channing Tatum.
Okay, he can really dance.
Wait, does he sing? I guess he does. He does in Hail Caesar,
done.
right?
Yeah.
But they don't. He doesn't do it enough.
He doesn't do it enough. That was a really good one, and that's another one that I would also kind of put in this sort of little time frame. But this is wonderful, and on this watch, what really stuck out to me most, or at least this time, was the through line of dignity. Always dignity. And we can talk more about that. But
I definitely want to circle back just like how it's capturing the transition. But I do want to hear from Andrew. But before we do that, let's hear from young Andrew.
I want to hear.
I don't.
Well, I'm gonna have to just like we did for the John Ford movie when we do our Young Critics Watch Classic Movies series, and we talked about the Stagecoach. I have to kind of confess at the outset that I have a general disposition away from the genre. So when I watched Stagecoach, I didn't particularly take to it, but a lot of that was probably because in general, I'm not a fan of Westerns, and it would have taken a lot to win me over, and it really didn't. Singin' in the Rain is kind of a similar situation in which I've grown up around a lot of really bad musicals. My sister has been doing musical theater her entire life, and I've just like had a lot of childhood experience of like hearing her belting out like songs from Grease and Annie my whole life, and like I just have this general like toe curling feeling about musicals. Singin' in the Rain, I was hoping this would be like one that would change my mind, but unfortunately, it kind of didn't. There are a lot of individual sequences in it that I love. Like as on an aesthetic level, like I love the actual Singin' in the Rain sequence where Gene Kelly is singing that song and splashing around, and I also really love the random kind of fantasy sequence in the nightclub where he sees the girl from across the room, and it goes to this like it reminded me of Brazil by Terry Gilliam. It goes to this like really long pink corridor in which she has this huge kind of star flowing behind her in the wind, and they kind of alternate spaces on this really the wide area of space. And so like on an aesthetic level, there's some really cool moments in it. But thinking back on the movie, and almost immediately after it was over, I have a hard time really, it doesn't really congeal for me in my head. Like I have a real hard time getting like, what was that movie about? Like, why did I watch that movie? What did I like about that movie? What's the point, I guess? So I wish I liked this movie more. Unfortunately, I kind of don't.
Oof. Yeah, that was dumb. That was really dumb. It'd be funny if I disliked it even more now.
That would be that would be awesome.
Not to me. That is not funny to me.
If you were just like, guys, this movie we gotta stop it.
But no, I mean, Singin' in the Rain's great. I was completely wrong. And you can also tell, like, just from that clip, so much of it just comes from like thinking musicals are annoying because I had to listen to my sister singing them all the time. Like it's not deeper than that. And I was maybe trying to make it deeper than that. And I think there are dumber points that I make later into that episode that Zach might quote me with later. I don't know. But yeah, when the main thing that I like really cringe at in that clip is me saying that like it doesn't congeal, like there's no point to this movie, because like there obviously is. Like it's a very thoughtful movie. It has so much to say about just like the artificiality of movies and kind of the narratives that are constructed by Hollywood to kind of keep the audience on the hook. And that song Singin' in the Rain shows up at different moments in the movie and kind of means different things at those different moments. And it's also just kind of delightful. I mentioned in that clip that it's really like pleasurable on an aesthetic level in a couple of key moments, but it's also, I think, just really, really funny, really charming, really like captivating and like visually stimulating on like a second by second basis. Even just like watching the characters' faces move as they sing and as they deliver these lines is always like really, really entertaining. So yeah, this movie just like works on every level, and I was an idiot like 9 years ago for taking against it.
For those listening on audio only, Grace's face during that entire like clip was just like shock, horror. She thought she knew somebody. And that's not even the worst take. I have to say the worst take that you have in this movie is that you go on this whole thing. I should have just clipped it, but it's
thank you
long.
for not.
Yeah, I didn't clip it because it's a little long, and you go on this whole thing about Gene Kelly singing in the rain, and you're like, and you go the entire time he's just saying, "I'm singing in the rain, I'm singing in the rain," and you go, that's kind of like if we started doing this podcast, and all we said during the podcast was, "We're doing a podcast, we're doing a podcast, we're doing a podcast," and I was sitting there at work today listening, absolutely dying to myself because that was such a stupid but funny point that you made. Is just because I'm just laughing at like, we're doing a podcast, we're doing a podcast, like they're like he's a Pokemon or something, just saying what he's doing.
I remember I tried to dress it up in kind of like fancy academic language, and I remember I cited Scott McCloud's book Understanding Comics, which is a great book, but there's a point in it where he says that like in a comic the words and the visuals should kind of always be communicating to different things. And I'd like tried to apply that to Singing in the Rain in like such a stupid way.
Honestly, I loved it. It was really funny.
And oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say as well. I listened to the whole second part of the podcast today. I'm good.
You have no sins.
I have no. At least in this episode, episode, I had no sins. I was like, come up with a point. I was like, that's a good point. I was just thinking about that.
I was cooking.
In that episode. I was just. It was great. I thought I did a good job. That's all I have, though. I don't know, Grace. What do you make of all that? What do you make of our 10-year comeback around on Singing in the Rain?
I don't know. I mean, I guess
you don't have to defend it. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad I wasn't there. I don't know. Like I feel like if I had been there at the time, I don't think I would still be here now. I think I would have been like, you guys are wrong and you're mean and I don't like you and I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. You don't deserve this movie. You have no light or joy in your hearts, and you can't take something that is so joyful and just effervesces with it's so vibrant and alive in every way. I mean, I am such a huge fan and I love it because I love it. And you know, how critical can you be about something that you feel so strongly about, that you're so attached to, that it feels like it is. And I keep like motioning towards it because it's literally, I just paused it in the middle of it. That I feel so strongly about. And, you know, it's like, how do you talk, or like, how can you speak critically about something that you just love unabashedly and love out loud? So I have to kind of like reel in the passion a little bit and speak a little more critically about it.
Can we go back? Oh, sorry. Can we go back to the point you were making at the beginning? We can talk a little bit about how it's capturing like that transition from silent to sound. Because the thing I was thinking about on this most recent rewatch, which is probably the first time I've watched it in like 4 or 5 years. It's been a little bit of a minute. But you know, when they make the transition to sound, it's also a movie like there is. The thing I enjoyed about it is when you kind of get to that transition part, it also becomes like not chaotic, but they start throwing a bunch at you because it's like you're getting hit with a lot of like musical numbers, and it's a lot of different types of musical numbers. And Donald O'Connor's doing crazy shit, and to me, but I was thinking about it, and I'm like, that's kind of what that's kind of what the transition to sound was, because nobody, everybody watched The Jazz Singer, that piece of crap. And
I wish this movie was harsher on the jazz singer.
I do too.
That's my one critique of Singin' in the Rain.
and that changes the game. And then it's like nobody knows like what to do with sound. And so you have stuff like those numbers where you're seeing like the ads for the different outfits that Debbie Reynolds is her, she's dancing in. You have like the beautiful girls where he's just like walking with all the women singing. Like you kind of just have stuff like that because they're like, I don't know what the hell to do with it. We just need to have sound in it. And like this kind of captures
jangling keys in front of the audience.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And so I think like when it kind of goes into that, like just bouncing around to different numbers and just doing different things, I'm like, yeah, that's in line with like what this period of movies was like, because everybody's like, I need to capture this, but I also just don't know what to do. So I'm just going to like make noise and see if it works.
Is it before the beautiful girl sequence that like you get this montage of like all these different things that people are doing with synchronized sound?
And it winds into that. Yeah.
Yes. And that feels like, what I've heard people say about like TikTok and other social media apps that are just like all like candy colored, like slot machine style, like just visual stimulation. Right. But it works so well. Right. And I think this movie is like takes advantage of the fact that it is a movie musical and not a stage musical, because there's so much cool like editing and special effects stuff happening at any given moment.
Yeah.
This that montage, again, like as I've grown up with it, it never really clicked for me. And now that we're like touching on it, it makes me think of like, okay, it's like quite literally, it was like they literally reinvented the wheel. Like when film came out, it's like, we don't know what to do with this. And it's just a free for all, capture everything, capture anything. And it's all very overwhelming. And so how they start with, I think like the sort of truncated sequence from Make 'Em Laugh to Beautiful Girls is like the perfect sort of microcosm of the transition, because you have the studio system that's very much like Du Montpetté as they're like walking through the studio, and there's this, and it's all one big soundstage. And so they're filming this movie, all at the same time with all the same sounds going over it. And, the directors are calling out sounds to it. You move like this, you do like this, now play like this and cut like this. And it's all happening all at once. They're churning out all these different films all at the same time. The shooting schedule, everything overlaps. You get Make 'Em Laugh, close down. And then the montage as all the studios are coming out with sound technology and all the different types of musicals. It's dancing musicals. It looked like, sort of like Hollywood or, like a collegiate sort of romance there. They've got the different special effects that they're splashing onto the screen as they're like trying to figure out how to move cameras. How can we capture these scenes? And it looked like in the Beautiful Girl sequence, there's just a microphone down from like the ceiling to just capture as they sing and move in one spot.
Which is what they should have done in the Dueling Cavalier. They kept trying to like attach.
Oh yeah, they're trying to figure that out.
They kept trying to like put it. She's. I'm not going to make love to a bush.
I can't make love to. And I was like, what's that?
That's so funny though. Like I love that they get laughs out of like audio fading in and out. And also like there's the joke that they're setting up where the microphone's on her shoulder and she's going to be like looking away and the sound's going to fade. But then they pull the rug out from under you, and what happens instead is the guy comes in and like yanks on a wire and like knocks her over. But then you get to see the joke that you were expecting after you've already forgotten about it, once you actually see the film at like the premiere. And it's fantastic.
Yes. Oh, wait. Yes. No. That was, I never laughed harder. That's always funny. But like with the invention, like it's so, I think it's also really great. I read this that when they made the transition from silent to sound, that two genres took off as like the most popular and like the most profitable, and it was the musical and then gangster movies. Because the sound of the guns. So imagine if this had been, I guess, like Shooting in the Rain, we probably wouldn't have the same sort of, feeling to it, or same sort of connection.
Well,
to it.
if he was, walking around with his Tommy guns, singing "I'm shooting in the rain," Andrew would have been like, "We know what you're doing."
You're so astute, so hit the nail on the head. But it captures it all really well, and I love the party scene, their attitudes toward sound. It's a joke. It'll never last. And I also think that was kind of, again, going back to this idea of film when it started, they thought that this had no staying power. This was a novelty. This was something fun and funny. And then it is now it's the standard. It is so a part of everyone's shared culture and, collective memory. And to the point where a young budding actress, Grace, age 6, doesn't understand, like, what do you mean movies didn't have sound? I don't silent cinema. That makes no sense. That, here we are in 2024 and they don't.
2025, Grace.
Yeah, we're not even there anymore, Grace.
I'm not even there anymore. I guess I'm still there. I haven't moved on, but we also don't have musicals like this anymore, where there's just a real emphasis on physical space and location, with which the musical numbers are then choreographed onto, and it feels like camera movement, camera stays fixed on these dancers as they just pound out the most incredible acrobatics, and
it's amazing,
and tap sounds. I mean, Gene Kelly is exactly who you think he is. He is talent. He is suave. He is sophisticated. He is dignified. He is sexy. He
is very hot in this movie.
The person he kind of reminds me of, and this person doesn't dance, so that's not necessarily why, but like in terms of this movie, and I'm watching it, and just like you described, like the physicality of it, he reminds me a lot of Tom Cruise. Like it just as somebody who like Tom Cruise, you love him or hate him, he gives his all in the movie and is like, you're gonna
the physicality for sure.
You think about like a Mission Impossible movie, like he's gonna give you the stuff, like he's gonna have the big stunt and he's gonna do it himself, and it's to me that's kind of that's what I feel like with Gene Kelly, is that like all three of the people that you're watching in this movie, Gene Kelly, Donald O'Connor, and Debbie Reynolds, like it's them. You feel that tangibleness of it. That's the same feeling I get when I'm watching a Mission Impossible movie or something that Tom Cruise is doing now.
And with Gene Kelly's tap dancing in particular, like there is so much talent and effort and practice that goes into that, but he makes it look absolutely effortless, to the point where it almost looks like he's slipping around at times. Like he seems unsteady on his feet, because like that's just how casually Gene Kelly can do that. This is just how Gene Kelly moves.
And so he's paired so well with everyone. Everybody really does keep up. Yes, Debbie Reynolds, may she rest in peace. I really was beside myself when she passed.
I forgot that she died so quickly after Carrie Fisher. Yeah.
So I want to be with Carrie. I want to be with my daughter. And so, yes, Debbie Reynolds had to have extra help from Fred Astaire, and Fred Astaire was like, this shit's hard. Gene is tough. Donald O'Connor, when he does make him laugh, he was bedridden after filming that. It was so exhausting, and they're like, Donald, we have to do another take. We lost some of it, so we had to go through it again. I mean, to tap dance like that on solid concrete for hours and hours and hours, doing the same flips and jumps, and
he's like hitting his head and stuff. Like
he makes us laugh. He
does.
It's so funny, but Also,
when he runs up the walls, it's so goddamn incredible. When he
at the end of the sequence too.
Yeah,
like after all that,
he runs up 2 walls and does a backflip. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But we would be remiss if we do not talk about the dance scenes with Gene Kelly and Sid Charisse, because we see them do it again in An American in Paris. They are so, I mean, it's like one heart.
Yeah, it's a language being spoken there. Yeah.
They speak it so fluently and so fluidly. It is so beautiful. It's like heaven to watch them. And I think I really, my 2 favorite sequences are the Broadway Melody Extended, because that also takes you through film history and like pre-Hollywood history with burlesque and vaudeville and stage performance like that. We also see a little of that too, as Don is giving his dignity speech as we move through different eras in his life, and the backdrop of like art and performance that
and the studio system
informs everything. And we get to the studio system, of course, the rise of Hollywood studio system and everything. That's also pretty essential to this. But Broadway Melody and the sequence between him and Kathy, Don and Kathy, the You Were Meant for Me, that one is so, those are 2 so romantic. And
Good
again,
plot.
that is where Gene is so suave and so dreamy that he is just a fantastic leading man. And again, it like builds, it sets a stage. It shows, it's that Hollywood magic as they craft it, and how with just some lights and a big fan.
And like you see them craft it, you see the strings that are being pulled, but it also completely works too.
It works so well to strip down an entire to it's just the studs, to the bare bones, and to still create and craft a compelling romance duet and dance number, and then to go and then with Broadway Melody Extended, with all of the flash and flare of that. It's all Hollywood. It's all movie magic all the time. This is the most perfect movie to ever exist, I think.
That was one of the other arguments we get into in the previous episode.
I don't want to hear it, actually.
Well, we talk about the Oscars year with The Artist and Hugo. It might have been Andrew. I forgot who it was. It's just like, it's just Hollywood applauding itself. Like, they like this movie because it's about movies. Then Zach, who's really good in this episode, comes in and is like, yeah, like I like movies too. It's a movie. It's a movie.
You're absolutely right.
It's like, well, who gives a shit if they're celebrating themselves? I like it too,
Absolutely. I don't think that they pat themselves on the back too much, because there is like
this is a really good satire of like
it's about the manipulativeness of the system too.
Of course.
Yeah.
And there's some tension there, as they talk about Kathy says, the pantomime on the screen, the faces on screen just don't impress me. They make a bunch of dumb show. I'm talking about acting, real acting with great words. And when Don can't even parse out Imperious Princess of the Night, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Who got paid to write that? And so, it is such a good little satire. They don't take themselves too seriously. And that tension is there between, what is real acting? What is a real film? What is. And this sort of posits that it's, kind of everything. Don't take it all too seriously, maybe, but.
Any final thoughts as we wrap up?
Fabulous cloths, as always.
I was going to say
you were great.
You were talking about the Sid Charisse scene in the Debbie Reynolds Gene Kelly one, and like those are great cloths.
Those are fabulous cloths. Beautiful cloths. I can't get enough of them.
I do think that the cloth scene, like with the long scarf, is still like the high point.
It's
amazing.
It's like a cloud. I mean, they look like they're in heaven, just the 2 of them as they dance.
And like as she circles around him, and the cloth like goes like through his body, under his arms and stuff, like incredible. No notes.
That's incredible, and it's also like. that feels a little more suggestive, right?
Mhm.
Than
Well, the scene before in the nightclub when she's in the green dress is very suggestive.
is very suggestive, and
yeah.
that's the most suggestive scene, or the most suggestive scene in the entire film.
Mm-hmm.
Why
there's
the League
nothing,
of Decency didn't like
yeah,
it.
like nothing tops the sexuality there for a film that is as romantic as it is. Like this is such a beautiful romance that makes me cry every time.
Well, and it's a better handling. We talked about it in the previous episode, but Gene Kelly kind of does the same thing in American in Paris. Has the 17-minute like sequence, and at least in that episode, we weren't as big of fans of that, but we felt like Singing in the Rain kind of like nails it a little bit more. Of like, hey, we're gonna have a random sequence that really doesn't totally make sense within the plot of the movie, but it's amazing.
It's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be really cool though.
It's gonna look great, trust me. It's wonderful.
Andrew, what about you?
I apologize for my past actions and beliefs.
Apology accepted.
I was wrong. Singing in the Rain is a really good movie, actually. I don't know if you guys have heard this.
Streets are saying.
Mm-hmm.
Streets are saying.
All right, before I wrap it up, so we have a list of movies that we're going to cover in this episode. What we're going to do rather than...
You mean in the series?
In the series.
No, just in this episode.
Let's go.
All right, time to do 5 more.
In this series that we're going to cover. But rather than kind of going like, all right, this is the schedule, we have the episode scheduled, but we're going to like pick movies at random. And we're going to spin a wheel in a minute. But the movies that we're going to be doing after this, the one that will not be on the wheel is Chungking Express. We're going to be doing an episode for that, but we're going to be doing a live pod at the Independent Picture House here in Charlotte with Sam Shapiro, which we're excited to do.
Do we have a date for that?
February 15th.
February 15th. Mark your calendars.
Yeah, if you're hanging
Express
out,
also rules. If you've not seen Chungking Express,
oh my gosh,
you need to go to that.
It's going to be super cool. It's President's Day weekend, so come hang out with us on Sunday afternoon and watch Chungking Express.
And Sunday night at the Thirsty Beaver, and Saturday night at the Thirsty Beaver.
100%.
Watch out, Thirsty Beaver. I'm coming for you.
We're gonna get some more people to show up on Sunday afternoon than we did last time. All right, so the movies that are going to be on this wheel, we have Stagecoach, which Andrew has already complained about in this episode. So we're going to see what happens.
I got some bad takes about that one too.
A Woman Under the Influence, which I'll be honest, not looking forward to rewatching.
I
also did not like that movie the first time I watched it, but I wasn't on the episode.
Anything. You don't like anything.
A Man with a Movie Camera.
Ooh, rips.
The Life and Times of Colonel Blimp, which we watched for the episode and has subsequently become one of my favorite movies of all time.
I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I've not seen it.
The Witch. We're going to have The Witch Scholar, Andrew Swafford.
That's
and then honestly, like, we should have a million episodes about this, but we're going to have Duck Soup. All right, but let's get for those watching on the video, we have the wheel here, so we're not.
This is the most high tech our YouTube videos.
This is so cute.
This is the wheel of names. All right, y'all ready?
Yeah.
Let's spin it.
Spin the wheel. Come on, big money.
Oh,
Man with a Movie Camera. Let's go.
I don't know that one.
We can't lose, really.
No, we don't lose. All right, well, let's remove it, so we'll have that off for next time. So next episode, Man with a Movie Camera. We're gonna get some Soviet filmmaking into here.
Silent cinema.
Yeah.
Who cares about the sound cinema stuff?
Yeah. I don't.
Sound. It's a fad. It's a scream. It's vulgar.
But thank you for listening to this episode of Cinematary. You can find us on Instagram at @Cinematary, where you'll probably get a lot of content the weekend we're here in Charlotte for the live podcast. Grace is going to make sure of it.
I sure will.
But you can also find us on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/cinematary, where we have all the movies that we talked about in this episode. Patreon.com/cinematary. We're going to have some cool announcements about that in the coming months, what we're going to be doing on Patreon. So now's the time to pay $1, $5, get on the list. Like
$100.
make it happen. Yeah, $100, $500, whatever you want to do.
Whatever.
But big thanks to our patrons, Cam, Ron Hayes, Tanner Huskins, Teresa Marsathi, and Tyler Chandler. We thank you for your patronage and hope to one day continue insulting the movies that you suggest for us to watch. Until then, Man with a Movie Camera next episode. Thanks for listening. We'll see you for that episode.
Bye.